Hi everyone, welcome to the Electricmotorgp show. My name is Nee, I'm your usual host, and by popular demand we're doing the Polestar 3 today. So you guys in Europe, you've highlighted the fact that you really wanted me to do something that you would have access to. So I've been able to get you access to the Polestar 3. Now for those of you aware, the Polestar 3 is part of the Geely Motor Group, which comprises of Zeekr, Polestar, Volvo, and Geely itself. Lincoln Co. and has been absorbed into Zeekr at the moment, which means they now have 4 brands. Now, the Zeekr and the Polestar fall into the luxury segment alongside Volvo, and the Geely brand itself is the more affordable brand for the group. Today we'll be looking at the Polestar 3. I've been lucky enough to get access to the all-wheel drive performance model, which does 0 to 100 in 4.7 seconds. As you saw earlier on, this one has got the 111 kilowatt hour battery with the 380 kilowatt motor on it, which means that this car is pretty fast, and I'll demonstrate that to you as we go along. The car in itself is very luxurious, feels very comfortable in itself. For you to achieve the 360 kilowatt energy levels and power levels that the car's got, it's got 180 kilowatts on the rear and 100 kilowatts on the front. This is part of the methodology of Polestar to try and improve the balance in the car and to try and improve the acceleration and balance in the car itself. The base model comes with a 220 kilowatt electric motor on the rear, which is different from the ones that we've got on this. Now, for those of you who don't like the kilowatts, the 360 kilowatt means it's got 489 horsepower, and that means that the car is pretty fast and pretty nimble. Polestar have done a very, very good job in terms of the chassis tuning of this car. I've taken this car on the motorway, I've got it to turn around corners, I've done it at speed, and the car is very comfortable. The acceleration on this car is pretty intense. This particular version we're driving has an energy consumption of 19.6 to 21.8 kilowatts per 100 kilometers, and it's got a towing power of 2,200 kilograms for those of you who like to tow motorhomes and stuff like that. The beautiful thing about this car is, even though it's the 400 volt architecture, it's able to charge up to 250 kilowatts hour per second, which means 250 kilowatts, which means that this car can charge 10 to 80% in about 20 to 25 minutes. So looking at the yellow Brembo calipers against the black drop and silver in the car, it gives it a very cool finish and a cool look. This particular model's got 22 inch rims because we're dealing with the all-wheel drive performance model. The car's got 111 kilowatt hours of battery, which gives it a good range. It's got 380 kilowatts of power, and it's split into two, 190 kilowatts of power on the rear and on the front. It's got a sloping roofline, which makes it more aerodynamic and improves its versatility. Also improving the versatility is the flushed door handles, which improves the aerodynamics as well. The charging point is on the left rear side, which helps it to be able to access the Tesla supercharger. It's got the CCS2 charging points, and like I mentioned to you earlier on, it's capable of doing 250 kilowatts on the DC fast charging. All of that makes this car very impressive. The boots and the rear of this car looks very attractive as well, sloping with the wings to improve its aerodynamics. It's got power tailgates, and the boot size. A lot of emphasis was placed on aerodynamics of this car to make it more fuel efficient, while at the same time trying to make it feel like a TARDIS. It is bigger on the inside than you would imagine for the size of the car itself. The rear wings also, like I mentioned earlier, are designed to help with the aerodynamics of the car as well. It's got a power tailgate. It's got 484 liters with the seats up and 1,411 with the seats down. attention to detail has been put into the boot space with lots of hooks and nets in there to help you be comfortable, help you carry your baggages, make sure that you're comfortable without any stresses to you at all. It's got a 12-volt socket in the back as well. The car has got air suspension, and you've got buttons to lower the car or to increase the height from there to improve access to the car while you're trying to put your groceries and your luggage in the boot. The Polestar has also got the top tether hooks as is required by Australian design rules. It also has got this slot in there which you can actually put things through from the boot into the cabin if you had longer things that you wanted to put through. Like I said, there are lots of hooks in there. It's got the retractable cloth material in there that's very easy to pull out and also very easy to retract. Just tap it and it'll go back. And the powered tailgates are very responsive as well. The boot looks really, really pretty, and like I said, you've got the Swedish design in there that gives you a very decent look for what the car is able to do in there. The flush handles, their take on it is also pretty good, and we're going to jump into the car in a moment to have a look at what the interior of the car looks like. The exterior, like I said, the front wings, the raked steering, the good seating space, all things that look good. The interior is like a TARDIS. It's got lots of headroom and leg space in there. My toes felt comfortable. I could push them in through and get comfortable. They've got thigh support from the seats as well. Again, everything about the car is well thought out. It's got a good sunroof, which is tinted to protect you from burning in Aussie weather. You've got the seatbelt that looks like you're in a sports car. The interior material is fabric, and Polestar have gone out of their way to advertise their eco-friendly chops about them being able to track all the wool that comes in. It's got 25, I repeat, 25 Bose & Wilkins speakers in there, which gives it a significant amount of sound. The audio from this car is phenomenal to listen to. The ISOFIX points are also readily accessible, which means this car is family friendly. You could put your kids' car seats very easily without having any stresses or anything at all. The seat belts give it a very sports car racy look to it, which is pretty phenomenal as well. This is part of the design aesthetics that I said I really liked about the car. It's easy to get access to the boot from the main cabin. You just have to flick a button and it will pull the seats down, and you've got access to the boots. The headrests are very comfortable as well. You've got lots of space in there for you to put things in the car without any problems. You've got dual climate control with an infotainment system at the back that you can use to adjust the seating as well as the air conditioning. A lot of thought has been put into making this car pretty comfortable. So Polestar have done this steering wheel, which in the minimalistic design has got nothing written on it, which unfortunately means that if you're not accustomed to the car, it's very difficult for you to know exactly what you want to be doing with it. It's got its gear selector stalk on the right side and its lighting and signals on the left. I've tried the adaptive cruise control on this car. It is phenomenal, but then again, you know they've got a lot of experience given the knowledge that they've got with the Volvo. I'm not really impressed with this 9-inch driver information cluster screen, but it does do the job. It has most of the information you require, but I don't think there's anything that will have stopped them from putting a 10.25, which has become the industry standard in this. It's got the 14.6 infotainment system screen here, which is quite responsive but limited in what it's capable of doing for some reason. I suspect that that's because the version we've got in front of us is the demo model, which hasn't got all its things activated properly at the moment. But otherwise the car itself is pretty responsive. You can control your air conditioning, your speed, your modes inside. It does give you information about the air quality. It is supposed to be able to park itself, but I've been unable to test that today. It's got heated seats but not cooled. and as you can see, the screen itself gives you a whole lot of information. So you can slide the screen to adjust your air conditioning, and you can switch that from eco, which will increase the amount of energy consumption, and you can do the heating if you want it. The screen itself is pretty good. It's based off of Android software, which means you can get a lot of things. Got the Google Assistant in there. The performance app has not been downloaded because this is in demo mode. When you hit the home screen, you get a lot of more infotainment, and I like the way they've put some things permanently at the bottom here, so you can put on the air conditioning without having to dig into the system to get as much information as you want. It's got vents in here with manual lighting. It's also got mood lighting in there, which is also very helpful. I'm not sure what that is supposed to be for, but I'll get that information for you. It's got a decent sized heads-up display, which gives you more information about this. And we're going to take the car onto the motorway now so that we can get the opportunity to test out how it drives, so you can have a feel of it. One of the things I found really buggy about this system is the fact that you've got to use the infotainment system to adjust the mirrors, and the lack of haptic feedback or decent response in the system meant that it was very clumsy to try and to change the mirrors from there. So it requires you to use a combination of both the infotainment system and the driver instrument cluster for you to be able to achieve that. Driving up the car now. Unfortunately, the roads are a bit busy. I was hoping to be able to do a test on 0 to 100 for you today before I put the car back, but I'll see if I can get the opportunity to do that at some point before we get to return the car. Now, the acceleration on this car is phenomenal. Right, so you saw it just now. So you saw how quickly this car was able to accelerate, and even though we didn't have the opportunity to push it to 100, we were able to get to 70 kilometers per hour in less than 2 seconds. Meters, which is impressive for how quickly the car was accelerating. The car itself is very much fun to drive. I think the difficulty for me in trying to recommend the car to say, look, I would say this car is good value for money, has to do with the pricing of it. Right, so we're about to join the motorway now, and I'm going to just try and punch this car so you can have an idea of how quickly this car moves. It is really impressive the way it drives and the way it handles. It does it so effortlessly that if you're not careful, you'll find yourself in a situation where you're going to get into trouble, which I don't want to get into. Now, I was mentioning to you earlier on about the way it handles and the way it drives. This is the adaptive cruise control on. It's got auto steer on. It will maintain that lane for you. It will try to get you to put your hands on the steering, which it does very well. Now, I used to own a Volvo XC90, and one of the problems I had with the Volvo XC90 was that if you set the speed limit to, if you set your adaptive cruise control to a specific speed, whenever you were going down, that used to be a problem for me, which they've tried to fix, but it's not 100% fixed. But one of the things that I really enjoyed on this car right now is the fact that it auto steers and it auto change lanes for you. So I'm going to test that out for you in a second. The roads are a bit busy, but I should be able to do that in a second. Right, so it cancelled it because there's a car close behind me, which it felt it wasn't safe for it to do. Let's see if we can go to the other lane. Right, so it's definitely, if you signal and it feels safe enough to do so, it will change lanes for you, and it does it very comfortably and very competently. So I'm just doing that again so that you can see what I'm saying about how easy this car is in terms of auto steer and its adaptive cruise control and its autonomous driving capabilities. So in all honesty, I would really say this is a car I would love to recommend for you to say, yes, this car is good in terms of what the car can do, in terms of how comfortable the car is, in terms of the way it drives, in terms of its performance. Definitely, it's a no-brainer. However, in terms of the price, coming in at 130 at the entry level for the all-wheel drive is a little bit too much. I'll put it into context for you, which is something that's coming out from Geely as well, is the Zeekr 7X, which is available in Europe at the moment, just launched. And the pricing for the Zeekr 7X has just come out yesterday, and you will get the Zeekr 7X at 52,000 euros, which when it comes to Australia, we're expecting it to come out at roughly about 78 to about 85,000 AUD. So these are the cars that it's going to be competing against in this market segment. And if it's coming in at 140, 150,000 dollars, realistically, it doesn't really make sense. So the reason why I can't 100% say, look, go out and get this car. This is not a massive car. This car is a 5-seater. It's got a decent boot size of about 500 litres. The steering, the seat comfort, the supports in the seat. It's got 4-way lumbar support of the seats and the seating position to having a good view outside of the car. They're all very, very good. But the Polestar 3 all-wheel drive starts at 132,900. I've just activated the adaptive cruise control and auto steer, and literally I've just got to put one finger on it and the car will control itself, will do everything I need it to do without giving me any hassles. It doesn't jerk from side to side. It's comfortable to drive. It takes the pressure of you driving so much that driving becomes a pleasure. And that's one of the things that this car does very, very well. Sitting in this car, you've got a good view of the road. You've got good vision. You've got good comfort in the seats. I've put the bolsters on the sides. It's hugging me very comfortably. The seat belts are very, very comfortable and convenient as well. So it is a very good car to drive. The only problem I've got with it is the price. And I think that's one of the things that Polestar and Zeekr have got to evaluate in the context of what niche they want to serve in the market, and whether their market segmentation pricing has been adequately researched. If not, I would probably say this should be one of the best cars you will ever come across. As we're sat here, we can see a Kia EV6 GT model just coming into, and this car is also a pretty decent car to drive, and you realize very quickly how much this car is lovely to drive. So I'm just going to ease off the accelerator for a moment, and I'm just going to punch it. That's how quick this car is. It probably just leaves everything else in the dust. So quickly does it accelerate that you're like, you saw me get pushed back into my seat from the force of the acceleration on this car. The handling on the car is phenomenal. And again, if the other car that I drove that I waxed lyrical about prior to this was the Zeekr. So I'm at 20 at the moment, and I'm going to punch it to 100 to see. There's a bit of a lag before it goes up again, but this car is phenomenal in its acceleration. Right, so thank you for sticking to the end of the video. I'm going to give you a brief summary of the Polestar 3 and my thoughts on it, which was requested by most of you guys in Europe. This was because you guys wanted me to do a video on something that you guys could relate to. And the Polestar 3 was a pleasure to drive. I can understand why there was a lot of clamor for it, but there were a few things that didn't go according to plan. So today we're just going to go through the pros and cons, and then at the end of it we'll do a recommendation or not, depending on what we find. So I'll start with the pros. So the Polestar 3, the pros of the Polestar 3, it's got a lot of things going for it. It's Scandinavian, which means you've got that Scandinavian design language in there, very minimalistic, very trendy, and well thought out on some aspects. The design language is beautiful. It's sleek. It looks elegant. It speaks volumes about who you are as a person, so to speak. Simple things that they've done that make it look pretty good. You've got wings for the aerodynamics on the front, wings for the aerodynamics on the back as well, and the aesthetics of the car, very, very pleasing on the eye. The other thing I've found to be really good about the car is that the car feels like it's a TARDIS. It's much bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside, for those of you who are Hoothians. But the reality of it is you get into the car and you feel like this car is comfortable. The seats, for example, the front seats are very luxurious. They feel very comfy. The bolsters on the sides hug you. The seat belt is very comfortable. All those things that make you look at the car and you feel like this is not a bad thing to look at. The 14.6 infotainment system is also a good size, which means when you're going through stuff in the car, you feel like you've got access to it. But that is also a drawback, but I'll come back to that when I'm discussing the cons. The acceleration of this car is phenomenal. The car we test drove was the performance model, and the performance model has got 111 kilowatts battery in it, and it's got 380 kilowatts electric motors, so 190 on the front, 190 on the back. Again, well thought out about making sure the car is well balanced and the movement of the car is impressive. The car is capable in sports mode of doing 0 to 100 in about 4.6 seconds, which is phenomenal. For the size of it, for the battery, for everything, the car weighs about 2,200 kilograms or 2,400, depending on the spec that you get. And again, it drives so well. Going into corners in this car was a pleasure. The adaptive cruise control, the smart driving system on the car is also pretty good. It moves very well. It changes lanes very easily without any stress. I really found the car to be a pleasure to drive. The battery size also means that you've got a decent range. You're getting somewhere between 510 to about 600 kilometers, depending on the trim you get. And again, you don't have to panic about range when you're in this car. It feels that comfortable. The electric motors, like I said, pretty good as well. Gives you instant torque. You're getting over 700 Newton meters of torque in this car. This car is phenomenal to drive. The DC fast charging on the car is awesome. It does 250 kilowatts DC fast charging, which means you can get 10 to 80% in about 24 minutes, which is, again, really impressive for what this car does. The design element of the car, very minimalistic, like I said earlier on, are also pretty awesome. However, if we start looking at the cons, the minimalistic essence of the car has gone a little bit too far, like the Tesla Model Y Highlander, the refresh model that came out this year. So things that really got me upset: you've got this nice looking steering wheel, you've got buttons in there that you've got no tags for you to know what the buttons are there for. So you have to play hit and miss until you get what it's supposed to do. The buttons have no haptic feedback, so you don't know if you've actually done what you wanted to do with the buttons as well. You cannot change the mirrors easily on the infotainment system. You've got to use a combination of the buttons and the infotainment system to adjust your mirrors, which is a nightmare. It wasn't comfortable to do that. And if, heaven forbid, you're trying to park the car or you've had to adjust your seats for any reason, therefore you need to adjust your mirrors, you cannot do that. So you've taken it a bit too far. The infotainment system is so easy to smudge. You saw different parts of the video in which you could see thumbprints there, that it's almost as if it was leaving information for people to come back and find out who's touched the infotainment system. The smudges are unbelievable to the point in which you can barely see the screen, especially in bright daylight. It was not well thought out. The infotainment system is based off of Android and is very buggy. They've tried to put an overlay on the system, which is, the system is very similar to the one that was in the Volvo, but it is pretty awful. Everything has to be done from the infotainment system, which is not particularly a pleasure to get on top of or to do. The other thing in there is you've got this nice big steering, and there's no buttons on the steering wheel to change the music or to increase the volume. You've got to reach down to switch a knob in order to increase the volume, which I found to be clumsy. So there are specific things that this car could have done better that it didn't do. But the worst thing, the absolute worst thing about this is the price. Does this car drive well? Yes. Does it corner well? Yes. Does it accelerate well? Yes. Does it look sleek and minimalistic? Yes. Does the design language look good? Yes. Do you enjoy driving this car? Yes. The smart driving features, the ADAS systems, are they good? Yes. But are they what the price tag on this car? No. The performance model starts off at $132,000, but you will want to spec it up because they've designed it that you will need to spec it up. And in specking it up, the one we drove was $177,000 before on-road costs. You add on-road costs to it, you're looking at almost 180, 185,000, closer to 190. So the question is, if you're not a Polestar fanboy, is this car worth it? My answer, in all honesty, is no. And I would tell you why. You can buy 4 Leapmotor C10s for the price of this car. And some of you are going to come back and tell me, well, the Leapmotor C10 is not a performance car. You're right. So let's talk performance. Tesla Model Y performance cars goes for 100,000 to 110,000. So for this car, you'd buy 1 Tesla Model performance and you'd get 1 Tesla Model long range, all-wheel drive long range. So for those two, for the price of this Polestar, you'd get 2 Tesla Model Y's higher spec cars. You're not a Tesla Model Y fan. Let's look for something else. For the price of this, you get 2 EX40s. They go in Australia. They go for about $90,000. 2. For the price of this, you get 2 Zeekr X's, which go for $72,000-ish, depending on which state, Australian dollars. And at that, it means 142. You've still got about $40,000 or $45,000 to play with. You get a Leapmotor C10. So you get 2 Zeekr X's and a C10. Not good enough? Right. You get a Zeekr X. You get a Xpeng G6 long range as well. So Zeekr X is 72, Xpeng G6 long range is 65. So that's about 137. You've still got about $50,000 to play with. $50,000 will still get you at least another car. So my point is this car worth 3-4 cars? The answer is no. So the Polestar have not got this right. They definitely have not. So there are performance models that are available to you that you can look at and you can spec up and will do all the things that the Polestar can do. The Model 3 performance goes for about 80-odd thousand in Australia, $80-odd thousand. Why would I want this car? The Sea Lion 7 coming to Australia, performance model is going to come in about $75,000 or $70,000. Is this one car worth that? I know some of you will say, oh, the handling, the this, the that. The SU7 handles very well. It's got decent acceleration. It costs $30,000 to $40,000 USD, so which equates to about $70,000 if you align the greed of the importers for the car itself. You'd buy almost three of that for this. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you something better. You buy the SU7 Ultra, which is about 45,000 USD, which is about 80,000 AUD. And then you buy the YU7 when it comes out, which has got 508 kilowatts of power in it, and it's going to do 0 to 100 in about two seconds. And that's likely to be costing just about $120,000. So for $120,000, you get the SU7 Ultra. For $180,000, $190,000, you get the SU7 Ultra, and you get the YU7 when it comes out. You get my drift. You can get multiple different cars that are really good, that would compete with this car and everything, and they're cheaper. So the price doesn't make any sense at all. It looks nice, yes. The interior, a bit of a letdown. Price point, definite letdown. This is what I would say an example of the producers taking advantage or taking the consumers for granted and thinking that we don't know what the options are out there for us. This does not make sense from that point of view. So for me, I would probably say no. There will be fanboys of Polestar that will say definitely go for it, but I cannot, in all honesty, say I'm going to recommend this to you. All right, you guys, thank you very much for sticking to the end of the video. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. We want your feedback. We'd be very, very grateful for your feedback. Your feedback is going to give us a good idea of what we're doing right, what we're not doing right. And please stick with the channel. There are about 3 or 4 videos that are going to drop in the next few days. I'm really desperate for you guys to watch them. I want to do a video of the almost rounds and the best of 2024. I've deliberately delayed it till the end of the year so I can get that video to cover almost everything that's going to be out there. I'm going to have a video in which I'm going to do a rant about the importers of EVs into Australia, because there are a lot of things they're doing that they're just taking the mick. But I'll save that for you when you get there. Otherwise, please have a lovely and safe festive period. Look after yourself and look after each other, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, and stay blessed.